This is Psalm FM. I'm Greg Kaufman, and this is part one of our two-part series of discussions with missionary David Small. David is a missionary to the jungles of war-torn Burma, where he operates a discipleship ministry known as the Jungle Discipleship School. For this first conversation, we're going to discuss his call to ministry, the mission field he operates in, his discipleship ministry, and the effect all this has had on him. David, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for having me on.
Now, you're fairly local. You were born and raised in Kenora, Ontario. So
Yes.
that's only 2 hours, 45 minutes, 3 hours from here. And according to what I know about you, you spend 6 months of the year in Burma, which, is that about right?
Yeah, I'm about 10 months of the year total over in Southeast Asia, and about 6 to 7 of those 10 months is in the jungle in Burma.
Okay. Now, Burma has been in a state of civil war for roughly the last 70 years or so.
Yes.
Okay. And so then you worked with an organization called the Free Burma Rangers.
Yep.
Before starting your own discipleship ministry. So how does somebody like yourself from around here end up doing ministry in a place like Burma?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's actually a question that I ask myself regularly. I'm like, how did I end up here? And you know, Burma is a war zone, and there are times where there's bombs falling on us and we're in the trenches or in the bunkers. And I wondered to myself, like, man, I'm from Kenora. How did I get here? And it's really just God. And I know that sounds like the typical Christian radio station answer, but I gave my life to Jesus over a decade ago, and right away I felt God calling me to take a year off from my regular job. I was a hockey coach before I joined the Free Burma Rangers, and I just thought, okay, I felt like I should take a year off from coaching, and then I went and I found this organization, Free Burma Rangers, that I knew the director from years ago, and he's still running this organization. And I said, can I come volunteer for 6 months? And I'd only planned, 6 months, and then I'm going to get a real job because they don't pay anything. And I was not interested in fundraising and that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go and do 6 months, and then I'll come back to Canada and get a real job. And when I came back after 6 or 7 months there, I just really felt strongly that God was saying, no, your coaching career is over. Your time there is over. And I kind of fought him on it. Like I put 2 or 3 fleeces before God, and every time he just said, like, he made it very clear, no, you're going to go to Burma until I tell you to go somewhere else. And so I was not a Bible scholar, but I knew when God calls you to go somewhere, you should obey. And so I just said, yeah, okay, God, I'll follow you. And I didn't quite know what I was getting into, but it's been an amazing adventure.
So if you could clarify, if somebody goes on Google right now and they Google Burma, the result they're going to get is Myanmar, which can cause confusion. What's the difference?
If you dig really deep into it, there's some tribal things that are going on there with the ethnic tribes that live in Burma. However, the best way that I can explain it is that if you think back in the 80s and 90s, Nike shoes got a bad reputation because of sweatshops, and people didn't want to buy a shoe with the Nike swoosh on it. And so Nike still made the same shoe, but they rebranded their shoe to Air Jordans or Tiger Woods brand. And it's still the same product, but it's just a different name. And it's just to confuse the consumer. And people for a long time, the civil war in Burma is the longest running civil war. And people associate Burma with the war. And so the military dictators wanted to confuse people. And so they just said, okay, we're moving the capital from Yangon or Rangoon, and we're going to move it to this place called Naypyidaw, which no one's ever heard of Naypyidaw. And we're going to change the name of the country from Burma to Myanmar. And it's really, in a lot of ways, just to confuse the West. And it kind of worked because people now are like, wait, what's Burma? What's Myanmar? Like, what are you talking about? And so it's just a bit of a marketing tactic in some ways.
Okay, well, that's interesting to say that our reputation is so bad now we just need to change the name of the country. Like,
yeah, it's been, years of genocide and war, and Aung San Suu Kyi, who was the leader in Burma, was put under house arrest, and she was trying to fight for democracy. She ended up winning a Nobel Peace Prize from house arrest. But, Burma just had a bad reputation, and they wanted to try to start again and have a clean slate.
Well, that's quite a mission field to end up working in. So what's daily life like in Burma?
Good. That depends a lot on exactly where we are. If we're on our school campus, we have a pretty regular routine, get up and we always try to stay fit and keep a healthy body. And so, because everywhere you go in Burma, you have to hike, or at least you have to be prepared to hike. And at times we've had to hike, 18 hours a day in order to get to the places that really need help. And so we try to stay fit with some PT in the morning. And then we just get into a regular routine with our classes and camp work. And our school is going to have a farm and chickens and pigs. And part of the responsibility of the students is to, cook and to raise the chickens, feed the animals and take care of all that kind of stuff. So it's a real community thing. If we're out on a mission, if we're going to go and help people, and, we want to bring a cup of cold water in Jesus' name, and we want to bring tangible help to people and the gospel to people. And so we don't want to just sit on our school campus. We want to go out. And so all of our students will go out 2 or 3 times a year and do what we call like a hands and feet mission, where we want to be the hands and feet of Jesus. And in those situations, we'll contact local leadership and say, okay, where's the biggest need? Where do you guys need medicine? Where do you need food? Where do you need tarps so that people can make shelters in the jungle? And they'll set us up there. And oftentimes it means going very close, if not to the front lines, to try to help people to get out of the way and then provide medicine. So we'll bring in medicine, and we have some medics that are trained and work for us, and they will provide medicine right on the front lines and help people. So every day it could be a little bit different.
So are you predominantly a humanitarian operation?
No, we're primarily a discipleship school. And so we run a 10-month Bible-based discipleship program, and we have a campus where we run that on, and it's in the jungle. Like if you were to just wander around the jungle, that's, deep jungle is where you'll find our school. And so we go out from the campus 2 or 3 times throughout the 10 months to go and help people that need help, because there's a huge need in Burma right now, humanitarian-wise. And we don't want to just sit in this bubble of our school ground. So we do, each week in our campus curriculum, we have a different theme. So like one week we'll be focusing on God as Father and what is our relationship to God as Father. And the next week we'll be focusing God as Jesus. And what is our relationship to Jesus? And the next week is the Holy Spirit and the gospel and the cross. And we really work through the gospel message from the start. And then we get into deeper waters. We talk about prayer. We talk about spiritual disciplines. And so we have a 10-month curriculum that we walk our students through on the campus. And then we also go out and try to help people as well.
Who are your students? Where do you get them? And what do you offer them upon? I'm presuming there's a graduation point.
The students, man, I just have a big burden for these students, and I love them a lot. And our students come from Burma. They're all Burmese ethnics. So in Burma, there's 184 different ethnic groups in the country. So our students come from all over Burma, different ethnic groups coming together to our campus. And man, they just come with a big burden. They come with carrying a heavy load, because every single one of them have lost somebody in the war. Some of them are soldiers that have come and requested from their leadership, like, hey, I want to go to this 10-month program. Can I get permission to go? And their leaders send them to us. And, they've killed people. They've been responsible for executing people. And they carry these burdens to our campus. And it's amazing to see the transformation when they're in an environment of love, when they get to know Jesus, when they have a meeting with Jesus, and he's really the one that will lift these burdens. And these are young people, early to mid 20s is kind of our age range. And at the end of the program, we have a graduation. We give them a certificate. It doesn't really mean much, we're not accredited with any body in Burma, especially the system is kind of broken there. But yeah, we give them a certificate. And I always say, it doesn't matter where they go after our program. If they go to become farmers, or if they go to be soldiers, if they go wherever into politics, because what we're trying to do is lay a foundation that they can build the rest of their life on. And we want them to experience God, experience Jesus. And we challenge our students at the beginning, give God the next 10 months of your life. With an open mind and an open heart, engage in the material, but give God the next 10 months and see how he shows up. And when they really get into a relationship with God, that's when the burdens are lifted off of them. And that's when they realize that, oh, Christianity is more than just a religion. It's actually a relationship with a living God. And yeah, so they can go out and do whatever they want afterwards because we're going to send them with skills and a true knowledge of God that they can then build and solve problems with and interact with the rest of the world after they go out from our program.
What's the overarching vision then? What would you like to see Jungle Discipleship School create within that area of the world?
My ultimate goal is that the students have a relationship with God. That's the number one thing. And so our program is not a academic program. There's not a pass-fail. We don't have a lot of tests that they have to pass, but we want them to know who God is and have a relationship with him. And so for me, that's the first kind of main focus there. And everything that we do builds off of that. But I also, and some of the staff that work for me, they really believe that the Jungle Discipleship School will become a light in Burma, and that our students, this isn't part of our curriculum, but this is just the vision that some of our staff have, that we want our students to go and plant churches all around Burma, to recreate the Jungle Discipleship School in every corner of Burma, and just reproduce what we're doing so that more and more people can go through this. And we want to be a light because Burma's a really dark place right now. The military dictatorship is really evil. And as soon as you cross in the border into the country, you just can feel this darkness. And we want our students and our school campus to be a light in there. And everywhere we go, whether it's to the front lines or just to a local village, we want to be a light. And so that's kind of the secondary goal of the school.
You might have already told me this, but how long have you been participating in this kind of ministry?
10 years. Yeah, so I was with this is only the first year of the Jungle Discipleship School, but for the last 9.5 years, I was working with the Free Burma Rangers. And the Free Burma Rangers is a primarily humanitarian, it's a Christian-led organization, but it does primarily humanitarian work. And there's a big need in Burma for humanitarian work. And so they've been there for 25 years, 30 years, and they're a great organization. But I just felt this past year, God was calling me to build a program that had a more intentional focus on discipleship.
So you've gone from hockey coach to unwilling short-term missionary to long-term missionary. How has the experience you've had so far changed you?
God never leaves us where he found us. He brings us constantly into new frontier. And one of the things that I learned working at the Free Burma Rangers is not to be led by comfort and fear. And I notice it especially when I come back to North America. Every summer I come back and, man, everything here is driven by either comfort or fear. You turn on the TV, you turn on the radio, and you're going to get news that is fear-driven. And then you're going to go shopping and everything is comfort-driven. Get this so that you're not going to be uncomfortable. And in Burma, there's a lot of fear to face and nothing is comfortable. And so you can't make decisions that are based on comfort and fear. And I had to really wrestle with that. And I grew up in Northwestern Ontario, and, I would come to Duluth for hockey tournaments or Bemidji and around into the falls. And so I was grew up in this area, and it's an outdoorsy kind of, northern Minnesota. Everyone's an outdoorsy kind of person. But the jungle is like a whole nother level of outdoorsy. And I thought, oh yeah, I'm an outdoorsy guy. But then you go into the jungle and they've got like snakes that are bigger than me. And they've got spiders like the size of my hand. And I realized I don't like that stuff very much. And I needed to just trust God. And so God, at first I had to say, okay, God, I trust you to take me to Thailand and Burma. And I trust you to provide for me. And then it got ratcheted up again. And God, I trust you to take me with the Free Burma Rangers to the war zone. And when I'm in the war zone, I trust that you're going to protect me, because I'm not James Bond. I'm like Mr. Bean over there. And so it's like there's bullets flying all over the place and mortars crashing in all around you. And you can imagine what Mr. Bean would be like. And that's me. And I need God to show up, because I don't have I just am not a war guy. I mean, I did some training in the Canadian Army and I was in the reserves for a while, but like I never deployed. I'm not a Navy SEAL. And there are Navy SEALs that are there volunteering and they're super tactical, super switched on. Mm-hmm. That's not me. And I really need God to guide every step. And so I guess the answer of the question is I learned all these things as a kid in Sunday school. Or, my mom would take me to church and you'd go to Sunday school or youth group. And there's always a nice little lesson or the moral of the story is this, the Sunday school lesson, the Sunday school answer. But it was never real. It was never anything I had to lean on or survive by. And in the West, we can provide for ourselves. We can protect ourselves. We don't need God to provide for us. We don't need God to protect us. And so those ideas that we learn, oh, God will provide for you, God will protect you. Over in Burma, it suddenly became real. Like, if God doesn't provide for me, I'm not going to have food to eat this month because I have no income, I have no salary. So, okay, I have to figure this out and I have to trust God to provide. And then when I'm in the war zone, there's the Burma army bombs with fighter jets and they have drones and attack helicopters and they'll come in the middle of the night and I need God to protect me in those times. And I have to wrestle with fear. I have to wrestle with grief. I have to wrestle with loss. And I need to do that with God. And so every year he's taken me deeper. And every year that I go back, I've thought to myself like, oh, there's no way that this coming year will be better than last year because last year was just amazing. And then I go back and it's better. And every year that I've been back, it's just been better and better. And it kind of makes me think of like the elders and the angels that sit around the throne of God and they look at God and they fall down on their face and they worship God. And then they get up and they look at him again and he's even better than they remembered. And they fall down on their face again. And I just think like, when we say yes to God, he's going to bring us to the most amazing adventure that we like beyond what we can imagine. And he will reveal more of himself to us. And I have almost died over there many times, but the feeling when I really kind of think at the big picture of my life, the feeling I have is gratitude. I'm just so thankful that I live a life that requires prayer. I live a life that requires God to show up because he does and he will show up. And I get to experience that every day, every year when I'm over there. And it's been so good for me.
Thus concludes part one of our two-part series of discussions with missionary David Small. Tune in next week for the second part where we'll discuss David's perspective on missions, his future plans, and get some words of wisdom. To learn more about Jungle Discipleship School or to support it, check out junglediscipleshipschool.com. For Heartland Christian Broadcasters, I'm Greg Kaufman.